Shenanigans in Denver. City officials in Denver are asking, they are begging property owners, hey, would you be able to rent to the newcomers at maybe slightly below market rate? Pretty please? That's what we got going on in Denver. Let's get into it. Here we go.
Well, this is another big story that we have been following, developing right now. The city of Denver announced that 4 shelters are being shut down for immigrants. And now city officials are apparently asking rental property owners to rent directly to immigrants.
Yeah, certainly a controversial suggestion. Fox 31's Lisa.
Let's take us out of the equation here. Now, if you could give them a little bit of below market rent and, it'll take us out as the landlord and they'll just, work this whole equation through. What?
D'Souza joins us now. They're asking owners to cap rent prices as well at about $2,000 a month. She joins us live with more on this request from the city. Lisa, good morning.
Good morning. Yes, that is the latest from city officials that we have heard at this point. So we know just 2 months ago, it's estimated there were about 4,500 people staying in those migrant shelters. Now that number is believed to be less than 2,000. So a pretty big difference here in just a few months. Let's get into some of the latest details here. We spoke with Denver's Department of Housing about a recent email that actually went out to some rental property owners in Denver, specifically asking them to consider renting to immigrants. Several nonprofits helping with housing efforts as well. They say the city, in all, they estimate about 1,300 people have gotten permits just in the past 2 weeks, further boosting their efforts.
We put out a feeler to all the landlords we have connections with and basically said, listen, we're going to have some newcomers who are going to need housing.
And we know at this point that the number of people staying in those migrant shelters is believed to be at a 6-month low. Of course, we're going to continue following this because a lot more questions here as this story continues to develop. For now, we're live in the Denver Metro. Lisa D'Souza, Fox 31.
All right, Lisa. Yeah, we will be following that for sure. Thanks.
Yeah. So work with me here. So you are a self-proclaimed sanctuary city. You tell all the newcomers to come into town. Hey, be a newcomer in Denver. You tell them all to come into town. You say, hey, we'll set you up. We'll give you food, clothing, medical help, whatever you need. Shelter for sure. And then you look at that budget and go, good Lord, that's expensive. Holy cow. That's a lot of money. Hey, if we just got rid of servicing, the whole housing and feeding thing, the 4 of those big shelters, that would really help our budget out. I mean, why don't you just get rid of fire stations? Why don't you just get rid of cops? I mean, City Hall, you don't really need that, right? I mean, we're just talking people here, right? We're just talking people. Just get rid of it all. It'll be fine. And then realize, those people are living on the streets. Oops. Oh, wow. The newcomers are on the streets and it's colder than where they came from. It's not looking good. Let's send out an email. Let's just shoot out an email and we'll see where this goes to, to property owners. Hey, here's how that conversation goes. Hey, you got some property. We know that you have property. So we'd like you to rent to our newcomers, but at below market rates. Denver is one of the most expensive cities, period. It has a housing shortage, period. You've had supply issues in Denver, as most big blue Democrat-run cities. You've got massive constraint issues with especially your affordable housing. So how is this going to go? Why on earth would any landlord rent to newcomers? Why? Out of the goodness of their heart? No, that's not going to fly, is it? This is the city's responsibility, and the city is absolutely bungling this one. But, we all knew this would be the case, right? I mean, did you expect anything less? Anything less? No, I don't think so. This is just what's going on. Denver property owners are being asked to rent to migrants, newcomers. Property owners in Denver are being asked to rent to their places out to migrants as the Colorado city shuts down 4 public-run shelters. Just the beginning salvo there. Just, boop. All right, you're closing it down because you want to save the city some money. Now you want the landlords to be on the hook for below market rent to said newcomers. who haven't necessarily lived in housing North American style before, right? I mean, yeah. The Mile High City's Migrant Services issued an email this week to property owners in the area seeking assistance in housing the city's newcomers to get them out of shelters and into more stable housing. We put out a feeler to all the landlords that we have connections with, said John Ewing from Denver Human Services, told KDVR, basically said, listen, we're going to have some newcomers who they're going to need some help. You knew this going into it. You knew how many were coming across the border. You knew all these things. But now it comes down to budget. And you realize, oh, yeah, this is not working out. This isn't what we bargained for. There's too many of them here. What are we going to do? Shut her down. And then we'll have the private population take care of it. Yeah, that whole capitalism thing will just rush to fix all of the socialist problems. Because, that whole bear hug to everybody that was an illegal, a newcomer. Yeah, that bear hug is more like, you know what? Out you go, out the door you go, out you go, out you go. I know it's cold out there, but here's a ski cap. You'll be fine. Or set of gloves. Yep. Spring's coming. The department's email gauged the rental owners' interest in opening their listings to the city's migrants, but at a budget. I mean, you can't even get that part right? Why would they rent out to somebody from the city? If the city's going to try and place them with them, why would they rent to those people instead of market rent with somebody who's actually got a job, knows how to take care of the home, and can pay market rent? You might think that $2,000 is a lot. That is not. That's affordable in many, many, many communities. $2K is just straight up affordable in these expensive big Western cities, right? West Coast cities. Here's the next sentence that I love. This is a good one. We've kind of got a rent cap, $2,000. We've kind of got a rent. Either you have a rent cap there, Sparky. I'm sorry, Ewing. We've got a rent cap or you don't. Which one is it? And that's when you're like, yeah, we kind of got a rent cap. That's what you're doing there. Because this is a no-go. All right. So your pitch to me is you got newcomers. All right. They don't have jobs. Yeah. They don't have the ability to get a job. So they've got no income. They're just monkeying around all day, doing whatever they do. And we've got a legit unit here that rents for $3,200, and you want us to rent it to those guys for $2K. That's your pitch. Yeah, we've kind of got a rent cap. We've got to keep that at $2K. All right. The emails come a week after Denver closed down 4 different shelters to save $60 million in what they labeled as consolidation. Due to consolidation, we're going to need you to lease out your property to the newcomers at a discounted market rent. Denver today announced the consolidation of newcomer shelter operations from 7 hotels to 3 by early April as part of the city's strategy to move newcomers from shelters to stability. That's how they're pitching it. This is a strategy. No, we're not just cutting down housing. We know these people need it, but now we're going to try and squeeze, private landlords. That's what we're doing. But don't worry. This is a strategy to move newcomers from shelter to stability. So you just throw some terms in there. You throw out some words. All right. But you kick them out. You're kicking them out of these shelters. These shelters are no longer available. Now, if you just were, straight up about it and said, you know what, we can't afford it. This is what we got to do. Got to see if we can get private, the private sector to help out. All right. But you try and spin it like, this is a strategy. This is a good strategy. This will help everybody out. You might as well just come right out and say, hey, you don't have the money. You screwed this whole thing up 10 ways from Sunday, and now you don't know what to do. All right, punt. Get the ball and punt. Just figure it out. Punt it downfield. Get it away from your goal line. Denver was expected to pay nearly $180 million on the migrant crisis this year, but the savings announcement cut it down to $120 million. Oh, this is good. This is all good. It's only $120 million now. All right. We're getting there. Venezuelans make up the vast majority of the over 40,000 migrants that have arrived in the Mile High City since 2023, according to the outlet. Most migrants are bused from the border to Denver, but approximately 40 to 60% get on another bus and head to other U.S. cities. And we've talked about that. The fact that like roughly half stay in Denver because Denver offers all of this, stuff. Hey, let's go to Denver. They're handing out everything except for shelter right now. And we're coming out of winter. That can't be good, right? You imagine coming from Venezuela, you imagine coming from Colombia. It's, significantly warmer there. And you end up on the streets in Denver, you end up in the streets in Chicago in the middle of winter. Tough go, right? So, but one of the main reasons that Texas has shipped so many people to Denver is, number one, Denver said, hey, we can take them. We're sanctuary city. Yes, we will take them. So that kind of got the ball rolling. And then when you start to look at the Denver International Air Hub, they have cheap flights to all over. So a lot of folks, 40 to 60, get on another bus and head to other cities or a bus. So Denver has a lot of options that say El Paso does not. El Paso airfare, just tough to get anybody anywhere. So Denver, along with Dallas, some Chicago, some major hubs, not only are people going there initially, being bused there from the border, but then they're going from there to somewhere else. But in the meantime, while they're trying to figure things out, they got to stay in shelter, and all the people that want to stay in Denver and do their thing in Denver, they're going to have to get housed somehow. And so this is one of the city of Denver's. Hey, could you guys help us out a little bit? Could you just do a brother a solid? Many people, as you know, arrive in Denver never having intended to come to Denver. They just recognize that it's a good place to get the help they need to go to wherever it is they need to go. Denver Mayor Mike Johnson said they get put on the bus, and this was their first stop. But for so many of them, they're hustling just to get across the border, right? I had a conversation with one of my brokers here the other day. Actually, it was this morning, and I was telling them about 302,000 across the southern border, and they haven't really followed this story at all. And they were asking me what I was doing down in Mexico, and I was in Eagle Pass, and that's a city of 28,000, and you had 22,000 come across the week before Christmas, just illegals, just coming across the border. You got these massive numbers. All those people have to go somewhere because there's very little opportunity at a city like Eagle Pass, even though 4,000 of them came through on, December 20th. 4,000 of them came through a small border town of 28,000 in one day. And they're not going to stay. That town does not have the resources to take care of them the way that they need with that many numbers. So they get on a bus, they go to Denver, they go to Chicago, they go to DC, they go to Philly, they go to wherever it is that, we're shipping them that day that works in with their schedule, right? So, we know this is happening. The city of Denver is, good Lord, these numbers are not good. One of my other stories today is the healthcare system. Denver Health is probably on the brink of bankruptcy because they've had so many thousands of people that have come to Denver Health and don't have the ability to pay. They're migrants, they're newcomers who don't have the ability to pay. So what's that going to do specifically for these healthcare systems where Sanctuary City has said, you know what, we're just going to welcome everybody. And it's that whole bleeding heart thing. You want to take care of people, but you don't know who they are. You don't know what they're doing. You're just bringing them in, and then you got to pay for them. And that's where the rubber hits the road. You got to pay for housing. You got to pay for medical, right? You got to pay for that stuff. That stuff is just part of human nature. It's like, that guy doesn't need to eat. He doesn't need to eat. That guy doesn't need to poop anywhere. He's just, the guy's a machine. No food, no pooping. No, human beings have basic bodily functions that you got to take care of, and not having them live in the street, during the tail end of winter, that's kind of one of them. Yeah. We're noticing that more folks are now aware of the volume of migrants that Denver has welcomed, and that the availability of jobs and housing that had been present 6 months ago is not as present today. It's not as present, meaning there's less of it. There's less of it. Less, not more, less. Yeah. Did you think that might have happened when Greg Abbott just kept sending that bus, get on the bus, Gus, get on the bus, Gus. Thousands and thousands. Did you think that might happen? I don't know. I'm just, asking for a friend. So crazy, right? The migrants living in the 4 hotels set to close in the coming weeks will be moved to another shelter or more stable housing, according to the consolidation plans, which were first announced on February 28th. As part of the plans, individuals living in the shelters are given a stay limit of 14 days. That's for individuals, one person, as that term means. 42 days for families with children. In February, several far-left New York City Council members pushed to scrap Mayor Eric Adams' 60-day cap on migrants living in shelters in the Big Apple. I was just going to mention, you've got a 60-day in New York City and a 30-day for single people. So as these systems just get overrun, and we're talking, here's something I want to impress upon you, is we are talking just with the people who are in the United States right now, the illegals, the newcomers, whatever you want to call them. Those are the people we're dealing with. You've got waves and waves and waves of these illegals coming up through Mexico, coming up through Central America, coming up through South America right now. Right now. Because in December, we had an all-time record high, right? All-time record high. We still got the same president in, the same policies. He's not doing jack other than, hey, there's border protection. Help those guys in. Help them in. Get them on the white van. White van goes to Migrant Center. Migrant Center, ship them out to wherever they need to go. Literally acting like a tour guide, acting like a travel broker, essentially. All right, where would you like to go? Where can I take you? Glorified Uber driver. Where can I drive you today in our white van? As part of the plans, individuals, okay, we talked about that. We talked about New York. In July, Adams imposed the limit on stays at city-run shelters, saying it was needed because the surge of migrants crossing the southern border and coming to New York had left little space. Denver's new migrant policies come after the city was faced with 5,000 people in shelters and nearly 200 daily arrivals in the Colorado area between December and January. This whole thing, when these cities and these states basically self-identified as sanctuary city, they're virtue signaling to everybody. Hey, we'll take them. But they hadn't really worked through the mechanics of what does that look like if you have 10,000 of these folks end up on your doorstep and you're not prepared. What does that look like? What does that look like to your school system? How many kids are you going to have to take on? Well, we're not, they're only here for a limited amount of time. Well, all right, but kids, they got to go to school, right? That's part and parcel of the deal you threw out there, right? Or sanctuary city, we'll help you out. Yeah, not in these 4 migrant centers, though. Not in these. They're closed down because, man, they were expensive. Medical. Yeah, our medical system's taking a little bit of a whack. Yeah, Denver Health. Yeah. Yeah. Because you've had so many thousands of people need its services, which we knew would happen, right? We're at below 1,800 right now, which is the first time that number's been that low since September, Ewing said. These numbers will skyrocket again, guaranteed. And that'll be right before the election happens. And then, because it's not going to it's not going to just slow down miraculously. Mexico is doing some work to try and prevent folks, that have made it to the northern part of Mexico, to turn them around. You got to go back. You got to start over in southern Mexico. Give it a shot again. Well, let's see if you can, get through the gauntlet of Mexican police and gangs and all that crazy stuff. Ewing said the migrants will typically pay rent for themselves once they are authorized to work after attending clinics that help them get legal work permits and the correct amount of time period has gone by. They can't work for weeks and weeks. Sometimes it's months. You're creating an untenable situation by, number one, letting them in. You just bring them in across the border. It's fine. Bring them in, and then shoot them off to Denver. Denver will take care of them. Denver only has so much in the way of resources. I don't feel particularly bad for them because you get what you voted for. You voted for a bunch of knuckle-headed people. This will work out fine. This will be great. Greatest thing ever, sanctuary city. How's that working out now? You're basically kicking people out and they're going on the sidewalk. Yeah. Now there's that. No, don't brush over that. We don't want to get into that. And like Seattle, like Portland, Denver doesn't have enough affordable housing, right? So you've got these illegals that have come in. They're waiting temporarily because they want to get hustling. They want to get their job and they want to do whatever. We don't know who they are, but yeah, that's besides the point. We don't know if they, had any criminal background or associated with a gang, MS-13. You don't know anything of that. But don't worry. As soon as they get their work visa, they're going to work. They're going to contribute to society. That's what we're told. And many of them will. Some won't. That's the bottom line, right? That's the bottom line. Last month, a Massachusetts couple volunteered the extra space in their home to host a migrant family and were surprised that a family of 4 arrived at the doorstep an hour later. Wow, they must have been listening to us when we said, we'll take a family. I don't think many people are going to do that. And it's not because they inherently don't trust, newcomers. It's because you don't know what you're getting yourself into and you open your own family up to the liability of having somebody who you don't know who they are. They are not vetted. We know nothing about these folks. And we're seeing more and more stories about, people that have been in the country illegally and doing crazy stuff. We're just, Lake and Riley, right? I mean, you're seeing more and more of those stories. We had one here in Marysville up north where a Marysville, Washington State trooper was killed by a guy from Mexico that had been living here illegally for 10 years. Yeah, some crazy stuff, right? Some crazy stuff. But this one, where Denver, they're basic. They can't figure out if they're coming or going. Are you giving illegals housing? Oh, you're not? Okay. But then you want these other guys to cover. I don't think I'm going to go out on a limb and say that the property owners, the landlords, they're not going to be real conducive to this whole concept. If they're making a bundle more, the city guarantees whatever damage. All right, and we're talking business. Let's see what we got. But if you've got housing in Denver, more than likely it is already rented out, right? Because there's such a lack of supply. There's such demand for especially affordable housing. And $2K, that's cheap, right? That is cheap in so many of these big, I don't consider Denver West Coast, but it's got that same influence from the West Coast. That whole, I live in a tent, do drugs, whatever. Fentanyl is great, greatest thing ever. All that crazy idea of just do whatever the F you want and it'll all work out great because, harm reduction says so. All right. Yeah. Okay. It's wild. Denver has, huge problem with affordable housing. Denver has some really expensive real estate and some really expensive rentals. So why would these landlords just all of a sudden go, oh, you know what? Yeah, guys, we got to pitch in. We got to help out. Let's all rent one out to an illegal. Let's do that. Let's go down that road. No, they're already rented out. They're already on contracts for long periods of time. They're not going to go down this road. It's like the people. Yeah, I'll host it. Oh, good Lord. There's a family walking down the street right now. Here's our newcomers. Here's the newcomers into our home. Planning, resources, budget, medical expenses, housing, food, clothing, job training, all of that stuff. You can't just bring in millions of people and just slam it together and expect it to work out right. But that's exactly what we've got going on with the federal government right now. And so many of these local governments, doing the whole, we're sanctuary city till we're not. And now the narrative is you're seeing adjoining towns who don't have the budget, who don't have the means, who don't have the ability to even take care of their own, let alone a new, group of folks coming into their community. They're basically saying straight up, we are not a sanctuary city. We do not have the budget. This can't be our thing. So please don't send Chicago. Please don't send us people. Denver, please don't send us people, because they don't have the resources, and they're the ones that are run by reasonable people. Whereas these big cities and these big blue, liberal utopias, bring in as many as you can. This is going to be great. We're all going to do the kumbaya moment. We're going to have a come to Jesus moment as well. Or you're just going to, really go down those roads. But could you give us a break on rent? We got a little thing. We've got a little rent cap going on? Could you cap it at $2,000 for us? That'd be great. Because that's what we're kind of thinking would really help us out save money, even though we're the city that said, bring them all in. We'll take care of it. No problem. Now you got that big problem. Budget. Weird. Yeah. Crazy, right? No, this is ongoing. This is just going to keep on going. And as more illegals come in throughout the next year in 2024, yeah, you're going to have more and more cases like this. You're going to talk about, all right, now this is overloaded. Now there's no budget for this. Now social workers are overloaded. All right, there's no employment for them. You're just going to have one thing after another because you don't have enough resources to bring this many people in a short period like that. Brought in too many. That's the bottom line. Brought in too many. Don't have the system. Didn't have anything in place. And this is what you get. So, you get what you vote for. So if you voted in knuckleheads like Mike Johnston, I mean, that guy is truly just, what's he thinking? He's not. He's just reacting. Same thing with Eric Adams, New York City. Same thing with Let's Go Brandon Johnson in Chicago. They're reacting because that's all that they can do. They can't have a plan. There's no plan you can put in place for this. All right, you guys are going to spend billions and billions of dollars. How's that going to work out? Oh, not good. We don't have it. All right. So what do? You react. And that's what they're continually doing. And those are the podcasts that I'm covering, right? Reactioning. This is a reaction. Here's Sean reacting to City of Denver asking their landlords to kindly take in the newcomers at a discounted rate. Today's podcast, right? Yeah. One more issue we got going on. All right. That's it for me on this one. Thanks so much for being here. I'm covering all of these topics because this is literally what's going on. So love to have you subscribe, hit that notification bell, hit the like button, share this with friends and family, all that good stuff. And I'll see you on the next one. Bye for now.